Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of Türkiye, United States Business Council, esteemed participants, it is a great honor to stand before you today in Washington, D.C. on the occasion of this valuable platform bringing together key stakeholders from the United States and Türkiye. On behalf of the President's Investment Office, the official organization that promotes Türkiye's investment environment to the global business community, and an entity which directly reports to the President, I warmly welcome all of you to this valuable gathering. Your presence here is today well appreciated for promoting bilateral investment environment of both countries. The United States is a key partner in Türkiye's trading ecosystem, emerging as the second largest export and fifth largest import partner with a bilateral trade volume of $30 billion. Over the course of 20 years of time, Türkiye attracted a total of $15 billion from United States companies. And now, with the recent increasing trend of investments from Türkiye, now we are standing as one of the key investors in the United States. However, as I said, investment from the United States is not one-sided story. With the emergence of new Turkish companies increasing their investments in this ecosystem, we are seeing that this trend is now becoming two-sided. Currently, more than 2,100 companies are operating with American capital operating in the country, showcasing the strong presence of American investors in the country. In recent years, American investors have achieved notable successes in Turkey's growing economy. Indeed, some of the largest companies, including Ford, Amazon, and PepsiCo, have demonstrated remarkable success with their recent investments. There are many more companies as well, but I'm just talking about the recent examples of investments. An important partnership between Ford and Koç Holding, Ford Otosan, now represents Turkey's export champion, boasting an impressive $6.2 billion investments. With a $2 billion new investment, the company has embarked on producing electric vehicles. These investments have received great support from the government's tailor-made incentive scheme. Amazon is also an excellent example of the investment atmosphere, growing investment atmosphere. The establishment of the fulfillment center in Istanbul with an investment of $100 million is a great example of cooperation between two countries. It has contributed not just to the local fulfillment operations, but also to the local employment. This year, PepsiCo has expanded its operations. It has opened up its biomethanization plant in Manisa factory. I personally opened up the plant, and I was really proud of this investment. This investment also showed the commitment of the company to Turkey's sustainability efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, moreover, as I said, it's exciting to highlight the increasing trend of Turkish investments in the United States over the past several years. Renowned Turkish companies, including Sabancı, Kontrolmatik, Şişecam, Elin, and many other companies have started contributing to the United States green transition process. Sabancı now has reached 500 megawatt installed capacity. Pomega has started its EV manufacturing plant in the country, and many other Turkish companies are eager to invest in the United States. Dear guests, today 80,000 foreign companies are conducting economic activities in the country. Thanks to the political and economic stability established over the course of the years, Turkey has proven its commitment to swiftly implementing major reforms to create a business-friendly atmosphere. Last year, we celebrated the centennial anniversary of the Republic of Turkey, and President Erdogan launched the second centennial of the Republic of Turkey. In his own words, this new phase in our history is identified as Türkiye century. For this century, Turkey has clear goals to achieve. Becoming one of the top 10 economies in the world and increasing exports to $400 billion stand among key targets. But even more importantly, sustainability and fostering green growth will identify Turkey's future trajectory. The country currently secures 44% of its electricity from renewable energy resources. When we look at the installed capacity, more than 50% of the total installed capacity comes from the renewable energy investments. And the government has recently announced a new strategy to increase renewable energy investments. It has identified a 2035 electricity plan to increase each year 5 gigawatts of renewable energy investments in the country. We know that the United States is the biggest supporter of green transformation, emissions reduction, and climate change in its own country and globally. Climate-related solutions could create new economic cooperation opportunities for both nations. Additionally, cooperation on LNG trade, investments in SMR technologies, hydrogen production technologies could be a shared focus area for collaboration. You know very well, in the last couple of years, Turkey has increased a lot the LNG imports from this country. And yesterday, Turkey has signed a memorandum of understanding to increase imports from the United States and diversify away from pipe gas in its gas platforms. Additionally, we believe there are ample opportunities between both countries in order to support the digital transformation atmosphere in the country. We have achieved a long-awaited law amendment a few weeks ago. Turkey has made an amendment on the data protection laws, and we have eased the data transfers between countries. And I believe this will be an important step for increasing imports, increasing investments for data centers, cloud systems from the United States. Before concluding my remarks, I sincerely thank you for your kind attention and for your participation in this panel. I believe this panel will further serve to make meaningful contributions to both countries' economic relations. As the President's Investment Office, we have representative offices over here in Washington, in New York, and in California. So we are always ready to support your operations in the country. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you to Zeynel for his remarks and for the invaluable work of the Investment Office in Türkiye on enhancing the business climate and supporting the private sector. I'm John Murphy. I'm Senior Vice President for International Affairs at the U.S. U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and it's my real pleasure to be with you here today in this Invest in Türkiye panel. You heard this morning the Select USA portion of the agenda, and today we're talking a little bit about the flip side of that. We're joined by a panel of 5 blue chip companies that I think exemplify the breadth and level of commitment of American companies with the Turkish market. Some of the more than 2,000 companies that you just heard mentioned from the United States that are invested in Türkiye. They're from sectors from financial services and healthcare to technology, manufacturing, consumer products, and agriculture. I think Zeynel took a number of my remarks. You know, trade has been booming. It's topped $40 billion a year. But in many ways, we're just starting to tap the full potential of the relationship. Türkiye has faced some macroeconomic challenges in recent year, but I think the biggest takeaway that we see from recent history is the incredible resilience of the economy. The Chamber's U.S. Türkiye Business Council recently met with Minister Şimşek and the governor of the central bank during the IMF World Bank meetings to discuss the medium-term economic program. And I think in line with the reform program and the measures taken over the last year, we're seeing more orthodox policy measures, and they're effectively reducing the economy's credit impulse and on track to bring inflation down measurably this year. So our panel here, though, will discuss the business climate and the investment environment, and how government reforms and bilateral mechanisms can encourage continued growth. So I'll just briefly introduce our panelists, starting from my immediate left. Caroline Berson is Chief of Staff and Vice President for Global Public Policy and Government Affairs at PepsiCo. Shireen Yassian is Director of International Relations and Government Affairs at Medtronic. Next, Jim McGreevy is Vice President for Public Policy and Government Relations at the Coca-Cola Company. Hera Abbasi is Vice President, Global Public Policy at MasterCard. And Rick Johnston is Managing Director for Global Government Affairs at Citi. So I'm going to ask a broad general question and we'll hear from each of our participants in succession here. Just tell us a bit about your company's presence in the Turkish market, the key factors that led you there, and your commitments in the country, and how you see the future. So Carolyn, first to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting us to participate in this panel. It's an incredible event, and appreciate the remarks from the investment office as well. So as many know, PepsiCo is a global leader in the food and beverage industry. Our products are enjoyed by consumers more than 1 billion times a day in more than 200 countries and territories around the world. Many think of us as brand Pepsi, but our expansive beverage and convenient foods portfolio in Türkiye includes Pepsi, but also Lipton iced tea, Yedigun, Fruko, Lay's, Ruffles, Doritos, Cheetos, Cereza, and Rocco. We've been doing business in Türkiye for a long time, nearly 60 years. We produce our food and beverage products at 6 manufacturing facilities located across Türkiye, and we do this in partnership with 2,500 direct employees and thousands more who participate in our agricultural, sales, and distribution operations. Speaking of agriculture, again, something you may not immediately think of when you think of PepsiCo is that we are one of Türkiye's largest agriculture businesses as well. And we invest in this space, and we do so sustainably. For example, we source potatoes for our Lay's brand from hundreds of Turkish farmers across 50,000 acres of land that spans 20 cities throughout Türkiye. 100% of these potatoes are sustainably sourced, and we've made really impressive investments in driving regenerative agricultural methods, training farmers, and providing education to Turkish farmers. So I just wanted to give you a little bit more of a sense for how we operate in Türkiye. When you ask why we invest in Türkiye, just a few comments I'll share there. Young and growing population, skilled and competitive workforce, strong financial system and institutions, a growing consumer base, and of course, an important strategic location. We're very proud to be in the country and look forward to 60 years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. That's terrific and really impressive level of commitment with the country. Shireen, next to you.
No, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank the U.S. Chamber for the invitation, and also thank you for the remarks from the Presidency Investment Office. So I'm Shireen Yassin with Medtronic. We're the global leader in medical technology. This year, we're actually celebrating our 75th anniversary. We're headquartered in Minneapolis. We operate in 160 countries. We have 95,000 employees globally. And maybe for the ones that do not know Medtronic, we're the inventor of the pacemaker. So our portfolio includes cardiovascular, so heart valves, heart stents, everything in the cardiovascular space. And then we've also expanded into diabetes, so insulin pumps, glucose monitoring, and then medical surgery and neuroscience. So think of stroke, think of pain therapies, spine. Our portfolio addresses 70 conditions in the human body. We have 120,000 technologies that cover all of these issues in the human body. Also, I think what's important is, as Medtronic, it's very important that we focus on working with governments and strengthening healthcare systems. It's not only about selling medical devices, but it's really thinking of and providing long-term solutions and bringing innovative technologies to patients globally. Also, a very important point, we're not pharmaceuticals. That's one. And secondly, most of our technologies are very innovative and advanced. So the importance of working closely with governments, public-private partnerships, but also training and education. I mean, to implant all of these medical devices, you need skilled cardiologists, neurologists, and so on. Also, one other thing is we all remember COVID-19, so we are one of the few companies that actually worked with governments across the world to provide ventilators. So that's, in a nutshell, Medtronic globally. Now, when we look at Medtronic in Türkiye, Türkiye is a very important market for us, and we've been committed and present in Türkiye since 2004, so it's been 20 years. We have 500 employees. It also serves as a hub for us for what we call the TWAL region. At Medtronic, we love our acronyms. So Turkey, West Asia, and Levant. So think of it as Central Asian republics, and then Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Cyprus. So I think very important and strategic location, and being close to and in relation with different regions. Sorry, and then a second, a very important investment that we have in Istanbul is we have our Medtronic Innovation Center, which has become actually the most comprehensive among Medtronic's 6 innovation centers that we have globally. So this center serves as a training center for healthcare practitioners. So we improve surgical skills, but also bring therapy awareness to healthcare practitioners. So why Türkiye? Just before I hand it over to my colleague Jim. First of all, we get a lot of support from the government, and I'd like to really thank the President's Investment Office, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Health. They're really put an environment that is conducive for us to increase our investments. And actually, our innovation center has started very small, but now we've increased our investment in this innovation center, and it has become one of the most advanced state-of-the-art innovation center that we have. And now it includes technologies such advanced as robotics, virtual reality, augmented reality. That's one thing. And then, I talked about Turkey being the gateway to other regions. So of course, this innovation center, it hosts approximately 10,000 physicians and healthcare practitioners from 50 countries. So we invite a lot of healthcare practitioners from Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Two last points. I would say also, as we look at public-private partnerships, and it's part of our strategy, Turkey is a PPP country from our perspective. It's one of the countries that have a dedicated PPP unit with PPP laws that, again, are conducive to partnerships in the healthcare space. And last point, I would say, the Turkish government is also a great investor in Africa. So for us, as we've been trying to increase our presence in Africa, working with the government and leveraging, the investments that the Turkish government is making on the African continent has been very helpful. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Fascinating. Jim, next to you.
Thanks, John. Thank you, John, and thanks to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for inviting us. You have the two largest beverage companies in the world. You have two of the leading companies in finance in the world, and you have one of the world's largest medical technology companies. I think you don't have to look much past the five of us or six of us up here to see the importance of Türkiye to U.S. multinational corporations. And Coca-Cola is certainly one of those proud companies to be in your country. 60 years now. We came into the marketplace in 1964, but let me just give you a one-sentence summary of who the Coca-Cola Company is. We are 700,000 people in 950 facilities in over 200 countries, and proudly one of those is Türkiye. We see the country as a global or a regional hub for the work in the region out of our office in Istanbul. Those 700,000 people are about 50,000 people in Türkiye, 10,000 direct jobs and about 50,000 indirect jobs. In 14 facilities, we source our products locally. So we are up and down the value chain in the beverage industry, from the retailer to the maker to the farmer and others who supply the ingredients. As I say, we've been there since 1964. In the last 10 years, through the partnership of our great bottler who's in the room with us today, $3 billion investment just over the last 10 years in the operations in Türkiye and across the region. So obviously a very important company market for us and a jumping off point for so many other countries in the region. But we also have a personal connection to Türkiye. Happy to provide greetings from Muhtar Kent, former CEO of the global Coca-Cola Company, retired now, but obviously still an important advisor to our current CEO, James Quincy, who's going to be in the region next week. So the importance of the region and your country is clear from even from this travel of our own CEO. So we're very proud to be with you, partnering with you. Our bottler, Coca-Cola İçecek, is one of the largest bottlers in the world. And we are a networked company, right? We are not, we are partnering, and it is important to have as close a relationship with our bottler as possible. Coca-Cola İçecek being our largest bottler there, but we also work with 10 other bottlers in the region, essentially from Turkey to the Great Wall of China. So it's just a pleasure to be here with you. We have, as I say, we have a business connection, we have a personal connection to Türkiye, and we also attempt as greatly as we can to get involved in the community there. We have fantastic programs to empower women's economic development, disaster relief. I think you're going to hear a similar theme from all the people who were up here on the panel. Türkiye is important, not just from a business perspective, but from a community and personal perspective. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting us and for all of you who've attended and to all the sponsors who helped put this together. We, MasterCard, are a global payments company. Hopefully you know us. We actually also use Türkiye as a hub for over 12 countries. We see it as a regional hub. We have a presence of several hundred employees, and we're actually increasing our presence there as we speak. We've been investing in country for about 50 years and have had a direct presence for 35 years. And we see the entire network, whether it's ministries and government, whether it's entrepreneurs, consumers, MISMEs, kind of the whole sort of kind of ecosystem. We see them as important partners as we work to kind of partner with folks on the digitalization journey. This is really important. We want to reduce friction in the payment space. We want to make sure that there are few to almost no failure points. We want to make sure we protect consumers and entrepreneurs from fraud, and we want to make sure sort of everything works seamlessly. But it's a very important hub for us. I have the pleasure of working with my colleagues in country on a regular basis. It's an excellent team. It's an excellent workforce, and we're happy to be there, and we're happy to be a convener also when it comes to sort of neighbors and making sure that we invest in fintechs and kind of partner with different entrepreneurs. So a very important market for us, and we've been there a while, and we're maintaining our presence and growing our presence. So
Excellent. Rick Johnston from Citi, who has long bona fides working on Türkiye. So over to you.
Thanks, John. I'll start with Citibank. Being in the country for 50 years, we extend, and all of this is to help underscore the theme of this panel, which is the faith and confidence that our private sector has in Turkey. Maybe we'll turn to some other facets of this presence in Turkey as we go down the time we've been allotted. But for Citi, in 50 years, we've now built that business up to offering and issuing $2.2 billion worth of credit facilities to the Turkish private sector. Citi is considered the top custody and clearing service provider for all the international companies operating in Turkey. And just this year, in February, we were the book runner for the largest in history bond issuance by the government at $3 billion. So the fact, frankly, that the government would issue a $3 billion bond issuance and successfully do that, I think tells you volumes about what the global business community thinks of Turkey and its prospects. Some of the factoids that we at Citi often share with our clients and with prospective clients regarding Turkey as a market. A lot of these numbers or statistics that I'll give you are very familiar to many of you. I see a lot of familiar faces, by the way, in the crowd, so pardon me for boring you because you've heard this before. But what we try to help our clients understand is that Turkey is one of the most dynamic markets in the world. It's the 17th largest economy, and if you compare it to European Union economies, it's the 7th largest, or ranked 7th. It's definitely a global actor in terms of where the government participates. It's a member of the OECD. It's part of NATO, of course, as we all sometimes might painfully be aware, and also a member of the G20. It's got a very youthful workforce. The average age is 33 years old in the workforce, which obviously is very important to potential employers. Turkish Airlines, and it's been pointed out here, and I think one of the reasons why Turkey has become such a hub for all of these multinationals is because of, frankly, Turkish Airlines. Turkish Airlines delivers to 342 direct flights to cities around the world, but obviously there's a lot of regional connectivity there. And it's one main reason, I think, why U.S. companies and other multinationals do use Istanbul as a hub. It's got a very high level of foreign workers, and I think this is something that the investment office is starting to emphasize, and I think it's a very good idea. that the visa situation for foreign workers, particularly management skills coming into Turkey, is actually, relatively speaking, rather easy. So if you're locating your headquarters, or at least your regional headquarters, in a place like Istanbul, you're not going to have the same kind of headaches you probably would have in other regional capitals. It's a very low cost of living. Frankly, I think the work-life balance in Istanbul, and I've been happily able to experience some of that over the many years, in fact, 40 years, I just counted it up, older than you, Barish, that I've been going in and out of Turkey. But also, I think the thing that we've experienced, that I've experienced, is that the infrastructure is actually quite well developed. So when you're looking to locate your business in an area in the Middle East, Asia Pacific, or not Asia Pacific, pardon me, Eurasia, this is just a natural place to go. I have had the great pleasure of meeting so many wonderful Turkish people, but also the really sophisticated business types in Turkey. And John, if you just give me a moment, I will point out that I served as a co-chair, the U.S. chair of what was called the U.S. Turkey Business Council several years ago. This was a council that had been created by the two governments in order to bring U.S. private sector leaders and Turkish private sector leaders together to develop recommendations to the governments as to how the bilateral commercial relationship could be improved. There were 12 of us from the U.S. side, there were 12 from the Turkish side. We had 3 iterations of this over the years. And I have to tell you, 6 years ago was the last iteration. And we really came up with some amazingly, I think, hard-hitting, concrete proposals to the two governments as to how to improve that relationship. I'll say, unfortunately, we had to maintain this in confidence. The governments didn't want it disclosed. But I've talked to Jennifer before we came in the room, and I think we're going to push the Commerce Department a little bit to perhaps reinvigorate that exercise, because if nothing else, all of us are certainly students of what's going on right now in Turkey. I think now's the time to strike and re-establish that kind of business-to-business dialogue that then can help influence and guide the governments in terms of how to nurture this business relationship. So I'll stop with that, John, but I think it's something for all of us to think about.
That sounds like a fascinating project. So, terrific overview from all of you. But I'd like to walk through one more time and just zoom in on a couple of things that you talked about. So, Caroline, really appreciate your deep discussion about what the Turkish market means and your strong investments there. Give me a little bit more about how that plays into the broader region. I shared with Caroline this 88% figure that one of her colleagues at PepsiCo shared with me, that Türkiye, the Middle East, Africa, South Asia, which is how many companies organize themselves, 88% of the world's population growth is going to be in that region, which just makes huge potential, right? So how do you see Türkiye playing a role in all of that vast opportunity?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. So I think what's really important to us, and I think kind of speaks to our global, regional, and local interests, kind of as a company, and particularly in Türkiye, are our commitments and investments in sustainability work, and how Türkiye is ripe as a place to bring some of that work forward. So, I briefly walked through the agriculture example, and some of the work that we're doing there in terms of our partnerships and commitments with local potato farmers is work that we're doing that directly supports the Turkish market. But Turkey's also quite well known for its exports of agricultural products as well. And so what we're doing in Türkiye is helping empower those farmers and working closely with those farmers to not only improve their kind of direct engagement in agricultural production and different types of products, but also think through how they can bring some of those skills and expertise to other commodities that they're growing and then also bringing to the world. So I think this is something that's maybe not directly relevant to PepsiCo's market in and of itself, but is something that we're able to do in terms of how we engage in countries like Turkey and how that's able to give back. Kind of speaking in that sustainability space, which is incredibly important to us, and I was so grateful to the Vice President of the Investment Authority for speaking a little bit about one of our projects in Turkey, this biomethazine facility at our Manisa plant, which I had the privilege of visiting when it was in the process of being developed. Amazing to hear about how it's kind of providing impact and really helping advance our sustainability commitments in Turkey, but also as a kind of proof of concept that we're able to bring across the region as well. So again, another example of how we're able to kind of pilot a new type of technology in Turkey that allows us to advance some of our global work. So with this facility in particular, essentially what we're doing is we're taking potato peelings, we're taking wastewater treatment runoff, and we're turning that into natural gas for our use at the plant. And it allows us to reduce, the statistic my colleague gave us is 1,200 tons of greenhouse gas emissions every year by virtue of having this plant up and running. And so it's a really incredible project that we're able to, again, start in Turkey and bring to other parts of our enterprise. And with that, we are so grateful, not just for the President's Investment Authority's comments, but also the support they provided for that project in and of itself. So we had a couple of challenges in early stages of that project with permitting because it was a first of its kind facility. And they were very supportive to us in terms of thinking through how to bring that to life and make sure that we're able to get that project up and running. And I think this is a really great example of something that, is a project that we're kind of advancing within our own ecosystem and piloting within the Turkish environment that is so conducive to these types of projects. It's a project that therefore can be used by other Turkish companies to advance work that they're doing in their own ecosystems and in their space. And I think it provides a really useful proof point around how sustainability is not just a part of our business, but it's integral to our operations, and it's something that we can kind of use as something that we're thinking about in a market like Turkey and bringing beyond that.
Well, terrific. That sustainability theme is something we see across companies, I think. Shireen, I wonder if I could go back to a comment you made, thinking about, you mentioned that Türkiye, you have an innovation hub there. Now, Medtronic, R&D is your lifeblood. I'm sure in Minnesota and elsewhere in the U.S. you have all kinds of facilities, but you've also clearly identified the human resources and talent in Türkiye as an asset that you can take advantage of. Tell us about your thinking on that front.
No, sure. Thank you for this question. I mean, obviously, and I think Rick mentioned, Turkey has such an advanced infrastructure, which is very important when you think about our sector. You need a healthcare ecosystem. You need trained surgeons, healthcare practitioners, and because Turkey has actually very skilled cardiologists and neurosurgeons, so we're using actually for our training, when we try to train healthcare practitioners from Africa, we actually bring them to Turkey, to our Istanbul Innovation Center, and we use Turkish healthcare practitioners to train trainers, and the idea is, of course, to upskill, build the capacity, and then for all of these healthcare practitioners to go back into their country and also bring, the training and education. So I think Turkey in that aspect is very important in terms of being such a regional hub and then so easy to bring all of these healthcare practitioners there. So, because again, as I said, it goes to women empowerment, it goes to training and education, but also to address medical tourism. And we have a lot of governments that come to us and ministers of health. We are unable to keep our doctors. They go, they train outside of our country, but then they don't necessarily return. So I think, making Turkey also a hub where you can keep, the skilled doctors, but then have patients from different regions coming into Turkey to get trained is really important. So that's where Turkey really plays an essential and crucial role in terms of in upskilling and the capacity building of healthcare professionals globally.
That's great. It really shows the high ceiling for investors in Turkey in terms of that workforce, and goes back to what Rick was saying about the ease of moving human talent in and out of Turkey is something the United States could learn a thing or two from, I think. Jim, let's turn to you again. You spoke with such evident pride about the value of your investments in Turkey for the people there and being a corporate citizen. I work for the Chamber of Commerce, so I think that businesses do good by doing business. But tell us a bit more about how you see the Coca-Cola Company making how your investments are advancing the progress of the people.
Yeah, thank you, John. What did you say? Doing good by doing business? Yeah, I mean, we're obviously focused on doing good by doing business by creating jobs, right? Both from our largest bottler and the other smaller bottlers that we work with in the region, but then also just in terms of our own company's functions, right? We're looking to create more and more jobs by selling good tasting and products that people love, right? So that's working. But there's a whole other aspect of what's happening in our company and in the bottling system that's important. The Coca-Cola Foundation spends a lot of time in Turkey and in the region looking for projects that can help the people in the country. So obviously you have an advanced infrastructure, but there are other aspects of community building that the Coca-Cola Company can be involved in, and the foundation plays a major role in that, from environmental goals to community empowerment, economic development for retailers and others. That's a big focus for us in Turkey. We have these, as many companies have, we have what we call the World Without Waste goals. We are working with our bottler on projects around solar energy and wind energy, powering our facilities in different ways than they've been powered in the past in Turkey. And I can just tell you, I'll just give you one example of the major emphasis that we have in the United States, in Turkey, across the world really, when it comes to what kind of container we are going to put our fantastic beverages in, right? More and more, we want to see 100% recycled containers that we're using across the world, right? We want to take plastic out of the environment. We want to use more and more recycled plastic. We're certainly doing that in Turkey. We're doing that in the region. Golly, in some ways, the U.S. is a little behind other parts of the world in this, but we're catching up, I think. So we invest in recycling facilities. We are investing in efficiencies to not only collect the container, but then capture the container so that it can be repurposed into a new container, whether that's plastic, aluminum, glass, whatever it is. So doing good by doing business is really it's a great model for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It's a great model for every company up here, but certainly it is for us. And we can talk about the different kinds of community building we do, but our focus is on the environment in Turkey and across the world, and it seems to be working.
Thank you. It's one of the most recycled products in the world is this kind of plastic, isn't it? Terrific.
That's right. PET.
Hera, turning to you, Hera is well known as an expert in digital trade issues from her time, not just at MasterCard, but earlier. Maybe, like me, you were struck at Zeynel's comments at the beginning about the attention that the government is giving to the digital realm and the ability to move data. And I welcome your further thoughts on, for MasterCard as a payments company, but thinking more broadly about the financial services world. How does that play out for you in terms of your investments and Turkey's attractiveness?
Well, thank you for the kind words, John. John is very well respected in the international trade community, so for you to say that is very humbling. Thank you. Look, I think we see trend-wise in Türkiye is a really great technological progression. I have some great stats here. Digitalization of household spending is about 65% right now. And we have, in 2023, it was 55%. The 65% actually accounts for, if you exclude real estate vehicles. And then the same figure went up in 2023 to 84%. So that's a huge jump. I mean, so for us, I think the trend lines are clear. You know, Türkiye is not being left behind. On the contrary, it's really at the forefront of kind of pushing things forward technologically. You know, I think when it comes to data and trade, you know, sometimes these issues can be a little bit thorny, but I think what we found is that if we can approach, you know, the government at the local level, at the national level, if we can go in also with kind of local interlocutors and local stakeholders and talk about kind of the mutual goals that we all have, and then trying to get to a point where we can just have a dialogue and listen, that can kind of get rid of a lot of obstacles. And I think at the end of the day, if we remember that we have the same goals and we listen, and we found that we can go to Ankara and have folks listen, that's really important, and we really value our partnership on the ground. You know, not everyone is going to agree on everything, but for us being able to go in, have an honest conversation is really key. I will also say, you know, one of the great things about being a payments company is you bring economies together, you bring entrepreneurs together, you bring consumers together. And we have some great sort of case studies and examples of what we've done. So going back to how we see Turkey as a hub, Türkiye, excuse me, apologies. You know, we've had some regional e-commerce forums where we bring different e-commerce players together from the region, and really have an open dialogue about how we kind of increase the technological progression. We've had, you know, fintech players also come together in the region. We've had other governments come in, you know, other central banks, and say, look at the way Türkiye does it. And when it comes to cybersecurity, let's look at this as a model, and, you know, kind of create an environment where, you know, business will want to invest more. So we have so many real life examples of how we try to kind of bring down the walls and bring kind of economies together. And we're so happy to have Türkiye as a hub. It's really important to us.
Well, excellent. You know, the digital economy is so important to companies in so many different sectors. Helps you to find customers and so on, but probably the most single important thing is that it helps you get paid, and that's where you fit in, Hera. So appreciate that. Rick, you're last but not least, and I feel like we could go in so many different directions here, but I really loved how you painted the picture of how Türkiye fits into a wider region. You know, it's part of the EU Customs Union. We've been talking about how it fits in with the Middle East, and it's got that excellent connectivity. How do you see the future in terms of Türkiye's role in the wider world?
Sure. I'm going to draw on that 40-year number I was referencing, because I am a reforming attorney, having practiced with a lot of the biggest of the Turkish companies, as well as a lot of small ones, and the biggest of U.S. companies, as well as small ones, going both ways. And really blessed by having such a broad experience, a varied experience. And then on top of that U.S. Turkey Business Council experience, where we really sat down in a closed-door session with 24 remarkably successful business people to sort of hash out what are the problems, what do we have to tackle. I'd say that first off, we in the business community have to understand, and I'm sure I'm saying something here that's not a great surprise to many of you. There's two Turkeys, as I've experienced it. There's the geopolitical Turkey, and then there's business Turkey. Geopolitical Turkey it's a nationalistic country. It's transactional. It's a trading nation. There's no question about that. And there's a mindset for those of us who do a lot of international business. Saying somebody is in a trading nation tells you a lot. And then last but not least, in terms of the geopolitical Turkey, it is political. And when you're doing business, sometimes you're going to be a bit put off by that kind of an environment. But you have to also look at the business Turkey. And the business Turkey it's a constant factor in Turkey. It's a constant positive factor in Turkey. It's constantly seeking increased productivity. It's constantly, all these business leaders that I've met, large and small, they are all intent upon becoming world-class competitors. And when you partner up or when you're doing business with somebody and they've got that kind of really, not really aggressive in a negative way, but aggressive, ambitious attitude about doing business, those are the right kind of people to do business with. The other thing that strikes me, and again, I'll say 40 years worth of experience, when I first started doing work with Turks, quite frankly, a lot of it was unsophisticated. But it is breathtaking what has happened in my experience to today and how truly sophisticated, and I use that term in a dictionary sense, worldly wise, the Turkish business people are in today's business environment. So when you're thinking of doing business in or with Turkey, understand you're going to be doing business 9 times out of 10 with some very sophisticated business people. And I think that the last thing I would use as a term to describe doing business with the Turkish business community is that it's pragmatic. And that tends to allow it to survive, if not flourish to a certain extent, in that geopolitical Turkish environment. So for purposes of this panel, I wanted, when I was thinking about this last night, I wanted to try to emphasize that point of the two Turkeys and not let the geopolitical Turkey necessarily get in the way of business Turkey.
Well, Rick, thank you very much. Terrific points, and I think what we're hearing across the board here, as we run out of time, is whether it's the earlier panel in which we were talking about Turkish companies as we're trying to get to select USA, the American companies that have already selected Türkiye. The space that we see ahead of us for closer partnerships in the business community is really vast, and it's a big world, and I think these partnerships can play a bigger role, not just in Türkiye and not just here, but globally. So I really want to thank the panel, appreciate you all sharing your perspectives, and look forward to continuing the dialogue through the rest of the conference here. Thank you all very much.